I promise.
Thank you.
I'd like to call the August the 20th meeting of City Council to order. We'll begin with the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Council member Vapperzan has graciously volunteered to lead us in there.
Father, thank you for a beautiful day. Thank you for your love and for your protection, for your grace and for your mercy. Thank you for your Son and for all he's made available to us through his sacrificial death. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. Thank you for Councilmember Saunders taking the lead position. Bless tonight as we make decisions and we listen to things that are coming up. Grant us your wisdom. I do pray for Miss Shannon's father, who's been battling cancer and going through a lot of different surgeries, that you would bless him and strengthen her and her family. For our men and women, both here and overseas, protecting us, for our uniformed personnel here, specifically locally in Maumelle, God, that you would provide them with wonderful safety as they do the same for us. Thank you for your love. May we speak words of kindness, of wisdom, and may they be words that you would be honored and pleased with. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is special guests and announcements. We have with us today Alicia Gillen, who's the director of the Maumelle Area Chamber of Commerce, and she wants to talk to us about the bash on the boulevard.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing today?
Great.
Sound very excited.
Name and address.
Try this again. I go with my kids.
Yay.
Alicia, name and address.
Yes, sir. Alicia Gillen, 116 Daniel Circle.
Is that microphone on?
You know, whenever we look at our strategic, is it on?
There's a button
Mine
at the
is.
bottom.
Here?
Oh,
Right there.
you go.
You got
You
it.
got it. Oh, try
Press
it again.
Hello?
Go.
Nailed it. When we look at our strategic plan, one of the things that came out of that was having that community engagement piece. So the Chamber has taken a really good look at what that looks like to us. And so 3 years ago, we came up with the idea of creating a festival. Been very well received, very good attendance, and so we are now in our third year. So I wanted to come present to you some additions and expansions and opportunities that we're going to be including in our Bash on the Boulevard this year. So it will be held on September the 8th. There's a flyer. From noon until 8. It is located in the Town Center Shopping Center. For those who are not familiar with that area, it is the old Walmart neighborhood market. Since we do not have a full actual downtown, we're kind of identifying that as our town center. So it's a really unique opportunity to have our business leaders in the area come out and set up as vendors and get front and center and meet our residents. In addition to that, we're going to have a lot of things that we're adding. We do have a free kids zone, so we'll have some amusement rides. A lot of our churches and businesses that are kids-centered will have a lot of games and activities that will be going on free to all the kiddos and families. In addition, we're going to have a beer garden. The entire area is permitted and fenced off so that residents are able to enjoy a beverage if they choose in the entire festival area. Let's see. New this year, we're actually going to be adding an art gallery. Expanding into the arts in our area is so vital to the community development piece of it. And so in the store adjacent to us at the Chamber, it's currently vacant. So we're utilizing that space, and we've invited 15 to 20 local artists to come and bring us their artwork, and for you to have an opportunity to just walk on through and see what they have available. We will have food trucks. We also have a game day area. So the game day will have TV on all day long watching college games. And then at 6:30, the Razorbacks are playing. They are playing Colorado State at Colorado. So if you'd like to watch the game, you have that opportunity. We also have a full stage that will be set up throughout the entire day where local performances are going to be going on. So we get to see all of our youngsters who are involved in cheerleading and gymnastics and dance, taekwondo, and even some of our fitness programs are going to be up there showcasing what we have right here in our beautiful city. In the afternoon, we're going to be doing the Miss Maumelle Area Pageant Reveal. So all of those wonderful young ladies who won in the pageant this weekend will be presented at the Bash that afternoon. TJ Ashley, who is also from the Monmouth area. Him and his family have been here for many, many years. He has a fantastic band. He'll be kicking off about 3:30. And then our headliners will be coming on at 6 o'clock, and that's May Day by midnight. And so that's a new experience for us here in the Monmouth area. They're a fantastic cover band. We also are expanding our footprint, and I've put those maps in front of you. We've gotten so big, and we've needed to expand our footprint. So we've been working with the local police and fire department, and we are actually doing some street closures, and that's really the kind of the importance of coming here today to see where those street closures are going to be. We're going to be closing off a section of Audubon. That will help with our pedestrian traffic as they park in Track D and walking across to the different venues and areas. We want to make sure that we have them, that they're very safe whenever they're walking to and from, and that cars are not going to be in that path. We also have a section of Club Manor. As you will see, though, that left lane going up to Audubon will be open, and that was under the fire department's recommendation that we have that access to get us to Audubon Point if we need it. So that whole back parking lot in the Riverstone Plaza will also have a lot of food vendors, and then we're also going to have the car show. So this is another unique opportunity for us. We're going to have a car showcase. It's very different. Car show has prizes, and this is a car showcase. This is an opportunity for anyone with a car, new or old, to come and bring it out, shine it up, and come show us what you got. We'd like to see if they have any awards or anything like that. So it's going to be a busy day. We are looking for volunteers who want to come help us with this event. You can log on to maumauchamber.com. Come volunteer with us. Spend a few hours with us because we're monitoring all those gates coming in and out to make sure that all of our residents are safe for the entire event. Of course, we could not do this without the Parks and Rec Department, without our police and fire. They are instrumental in making sure that this is a successful event and a safe event. So do you guys have any questions?
What are the total hours?
Noon to 8. Noon to 8. So the gates will open at noon, and our headliner will go on at 6, and then they wrap up the night at 8 o'clock. Yep, so we'll be out of there.
Okay. Councilmember Timmons?
Alicia, I just want to thank you and your team. I know you worked very hard.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It is great for the city. Last year, we clicked over 5,000 visitors that came through the gate. We do a lot of advertising on billboards outside of our city. There's some on Rodney Parham. There's a couple in Little Rock. So we get in a lot of different publications. We want a lot of people from outside of our boundaries to come see what beautiful assets that we have here in our city. So
Most people don't realize the amount of work it takes until you've done one.
we plan for this for an entire year. So yeah, we're getting the I's dotted and T's crossed today, but a lot of this work was done many, many months leading up to this. So again, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gillen. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the August the 6th meeting?
So offered.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? No? Okay. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. Okay, motion approved, or approved, minutes are approved. Okay, we have one public comment card today, and it has to do with the August financials. I talked to Mr. Darby, and we're going to allow Ms. Vega to present the August financials first. She may answer his questions. So, and that's the only public comment that we got today. Okay, Ms. Vega.
Hello. I'm wearing contacts now, and I still need readers. Makes sense, right?
Ms. Vega, on behalf of Councilmember Holt, can you use this?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
No pun intended.
Okay. Let's go to the first slide. All right, this is showing our fund balance for the sanitation department here. We're ahead of budget. This is the street fund, and we're also ahead of budget on it, about $100,000. And this yellow here is our minimum that we have to keep in the bank for to cover our expenses that are budgeted. And then this is our current fund balance and our budgeted fund balance, and we're ahead on that. Next slide. Okay, the general fund here.
It was working.
Press and hold.
Yeah.
Okay. County millage is up 5%. There it goes.
Oh, it's him.
You want to use
Oh.
this, Vega? It's that top button.
Okay. This is our county millage. As you can see here, it's up. It is up 4%. Our county sales tax is up just a little bit, 1% over prior year. Our city sales tax are up 19% over prior year, and this does not include the new sales tax. We will not receive those sales tax monies until September 1st. We'll get our first deposit for that, and it goes straight to pay the bonds. Yeah, so we won't even touch it. We just get a record that the payment went to the bond people, and they'll hold it until we pay down our bond.
So that's true growth.
That is true growth.
So that's the half cent, though. Don't we have another half cent that comes to the fund?
We do. You're right. We do. And again, that won't come until September. Correct. And the community service fee, again, will end in September.
Franchise fee.
Franchise fees are up 6% over prior year. Okay, the next slide is our street fund. Our street turnback is up 3%. Street aid is up 14%. And county millage is up 3%. Okay. Sanitation fund. Our sanitation fees are down 17%. So we're really looking forward to CAW taking over the billing because we expect our collections to be much better. At the end of the year, the people that have not paid their sanitation bill, we will send that off to the Pulaski County and put a lien on their personal property to get payment. And that works pretty good. Again, our variances that I'll bring up is our police and fire. And again, they're up due to the additional positions that we've put in place and the raises that we've put in place. Senior Center, their expenses are up, and that they're up 31%, and that's due to expanded services for seniors. And really, that's the most to talk about. The highest variance to discuss. Okay, this slide is just a different way of looking at the same information to see where our expenses have gone. And with fire, I think fire was like 56%, and police was 54%. I may have that backwards, but you can see that they're pretty close to the same, and that makes up more than half of our expenditures. That's why we have such a safe community. This is showing our budget and our expenditures to budget. So right now, the general fund, we should be at under 60% of our budget at this time in the year. And you can see that everybody's well within that range. Okay, the street fund expenditures. this here, that difference is again the reimbursements that we're waiting for the third entrance, and so that looks really bad. The entrance, the deposit that we're waiting on is $61,000, so that's the bulk of that gap. Vehicle maintenance is up $19,000. Increased fuel costs are different, substantially different than what we had planned for. And I don't have to say the fuel allocation anymore because that's all caught up and clean now. Okay, sanitation expenses. Wrong button. This is due to the increase in tipping that we have now. An update on the audit. We're wrapping up the information to send to the audits this week. We expect it to go out by Friday. And we have our new accounts payable coordinator. Her name is Lisa Taylor, and she started today, and she's doing good. Are there any questions?
Oh, Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you. You said something about our tipping fees have gone up. I can't remember if we discussed it. Is that something that we need to address by offsetting, raising,
The budget.
raising fees to offset that, or
That is something that I've actually been discussing with Mike Hogan. We're going to do an analysis on that and make sure that we're at least.
nobody wants their bill to go up, but we also don't want to run in a deficit.
Well, and what we do is we charge for extra dumping, and so that helps mitigate some of that cost.
Okay.
But again, we're doing an analysis on that to make sure that we're charging enough for those extra pickups.
And what was the growth on our revenue for sales tax? What was that growth percentage again? I know you said it, but
That's all right. I think it's 6%.
6%.
My memory's not great.
Mine obviously isn't either.
Actually, it's 19%. But
19%.
that's not, I don't think that that's a true indicator. I think that we have some anomalies in there that we talked about, the mayor talked about. Remember, we had the department store.
And they asked for some of that back, but not all.
Right. And we cannot get the detail of that information from the state. They will not release it. They consider it to be an unfair advantage for bidding purposes. That's what they tell us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we getting quite a bit of money from Amazon, tax money? Is that working out well for us?
Well, that could be the reason for the increase, and that would actually explain a department store, and the 19%. Because they're also charging it on like Voodoo and those things, and my husband gets mad every time we order a movie.
How far can they go back if they felt that they've made a mistake? Or is there a statute of limitation, or is it just any time they can sue?
I don't know that.
I think the mayor said 3 years.
Is it 3 years?
I think that's what he said.
Is it 3 years, Caleb? Do you think it's 3 years?
He wasn't paying attention.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
How far back can the state go to?
I want to say for the taxes, I want to say it's 3 years.
Okay.
That's what the mayor said at one of the.
Yeah, I think we looked that up before.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The last thing,
but-
we are way up in above what we're required to keep in the bank. We have $6,515,000. Does that just keep on growing? Is at some point, do we take that and distribute that out to other?
We can use that in our budget if we had capital improvements that we wanted to make. We could dip into our savings, but the unrestricted portion is 5 million. 4.9, I think, is what our unrestricted balance is that we could do something with.
Is this a better overall year, I mean, so far as you know, than what we've normally had? I mean, we've always been above, but are we stronger now than normal, or is this about average?
19% is pretty strong.
Yeah, it's a lot stronger than it was when I came here at this time last year.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up there, but don't ask, just take it.
Well, you know, I do want to know where the anomalies are and why our income is up, and I want to know why expenses are up.
Right. But, of course, we did two things, one for the police and one for the fire. One is the truck that we're going to buy for the fire. Is that already in this audit here?
No, that will be in the August numbers, but the truck was purchased.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll, in other words, expenses just sort of, it makes it a little bit higher expenses, but we're going to cover it anyway. We're okay with that.
Yes. Yes, we have the funds to do that.
It wasn't expensive.
We need a motion to approve, or do you want to wait until after the public comment?
Well, let's see if there's going to be public comment.
Okay.
Are you through, Mr. Holt?
Yeah, I don't guess he wants me to ask any more questions, so I'll stop. I'm done. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Just a minute, Ms. Vega. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I just had kind of ask you for your opinion. It's pretty amazing how our expenditures are down almost $1 million.
But our payables are up.
Okay. All right. All righty. My question was, do you think we over budget for expenditures? Should we have a sharper pencil when we're looking more at previous year's numbers and that sort of thing? 'Cause it seems like it's amazing that we always, I mean, we can have a negative $1.2 million
Deficit.
going into the year and come out even.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems that's
Yeah, I agree.
awful loose.
Yeah, I'm looking at that very closely this year. I'll be doing the budget this year, and that's one of the things that we need to tighten up. If we're going to go through the process of coming to y'all asking for more money, well, it needs to be real.
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
Thank you.
It's loose today.
You through? You through?
I'm through.
Okay. Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you. That's what I was trying to get at with our revenue is that, whenever we're going to budget, we always underestimate our revenue, which I understand, we don't know how much money that we're getting or if we're going to have to give a big chunk back. But I think that's where some of that Councilmember Mosley is getting at is that we're looking like we're budgeting in a deficit when we're actually not.
Mm-hmm.
We're more in a wash or we're in the positive territory.
Right.
So I think that would be gravely a good advantage to us if we can have a more tighter kind of rein on that. I understand it's hard to do with revenue from the city. It's not the same as like when we get paychecks. We know exactly how much we get, but if we could try to get a truer number, that definitely would be better for everyone.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be a little bit tough to do, but I'm going to be working really hard to do it because we have this unknown new 0.5%.
Right.
But then I say that, and that's not really accurate either. We have history to
Well,
look
even
at.
if we get the known revenue that we're getting tighter than we have in the past, that's going to be an advantage.
Yes.
It makes it easier for the process to go if we really have the true amount of money that we
Working
want to
with.
budget so we can do the things that our city needs, our capital improvements, or working on making our parks better and making sure that our fire and safety have the vehicles they need and the personnel they need. And if we don't know how much money we can spend, then how do we know how to get to that point? and if you're looking through, a pinhole, and it looks like the Maumelle City Council has budgeted yet another year of deficit, well, it's not really true.
Right.
So it just makes the process a lot better for everyone. It helps the constituency to understand, the process a little better and know that, when we say a deficit, it's really just an estimated deficit sometimes. So I'm excited about the fact that we're going to work on getting that, more under control, so that we have, truer numbers. So.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how the forecasting has been done in the past, but I have some ideas about different ways that we can shore up those numbers. And they may have been used in the past, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't involved in it. Last year I was doing audits.
Understand. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councilmember Scott?
I believe one of the things Ms. Vega is doing is truing up the spreadsheets that we look at budget time. In the past, those have not been trued up. They've always been a divide by 12 and,
Right.
that kind of thing. And so she's in the process of truing that up. So we will be looking at more realistic numbers when we do our budget planning. And I believe the fire truck came out of capital reserve rather than expenses.
That's correct.
Yeah, so it won't show on the expense.
Right, it's a capital purchase.
Yeah, it's a capital purchase.
Yes, sir.
So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Timmons?
I think the numbers are truer when we get closer to the end of the year. I don't think we can right now foresee unless we go by department head and see what hasn't been. Is there something forthcoming, So I think that's, we'll know better numbers October.
Well, and that is something that I will be doing, and I will also be updating the forecast at the end of each month. So as the year goes on, that's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter, so we should have much better numbers. But also in our budget process, we shore up the budget early, so it'll be a new experience for me getting that timing down and getting things as tight as I can. And I don't know how far I can go to make adjustments, but that's one of the things I'll be working with.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Ms. Vega.
Thank you.
Oh, public comment.
Now, we did have one comment card turned in. Mr. Darby, did she answer your questions?
Partially, I still have a couple.
Okay, if you'd like to come to the podium, please state your name and address for the records.
My name is Joseph Darby. I'm at 5 Ophelia Drive. And I just had, partially, it was related to the expenditures and that we were short close to $1 million on that. Am I correct in understanding we expected to be short on that this month? This is for the just total operating expenditures for July. Was it expected that we were going to be shorter on expenditures this month? No. Okay. And I guess that leads into the second question. Are there going to be? Could there be expenditures in the future that would kind of
Offset
yeah,
that.
due to timing, upset that? Okay, so it is possible to see those be upset in, for instance, next budget. Second question I had related to the sanitation fund report. I noticed on capital expenditures, it was only $13,000 compared to what we had budgeted for $134,000, and last year it was $196,000. Was there a particular reason for that?
They have not made their purchase, all the capital purchases.
Okay, so they just haven't made their purchases this month. Okay.
No.
Okay, that was all my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the July financials?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the August financials. Is there any discussion, any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. Motion approved. Okay, we have no department reports tonight that I know of. I would accept a motion to read a procedural motion to read all ordinances and by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I suppose there's no discussion on this? Okay, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion passed. We have no unfinished business tonight. The mayor took it easy on me. Okay, new business, we do have three things, or two. Okay, Madam City Clerk, could you read this by title only, please?
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 961, an ordinance declaring the speed limit in residential rear access alleys.
I think we
That was,
Skip one.
that's the second.
That's 61.
This 960.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 960, an ordinance accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets and drainage in Carnahan Village subdivision upon the fulfillment of certain contingencies and for other purposes.
Thank you. Before we start on this, I talked to the Director of Planning and Zoning, Mr. Neri, about this today, and in our discussion, we both kind of agreed that it might be nice if he would come and explain to you what's going on here. We don't get that many subdivisions to deal with in this situation. They don't come along that often. And we do have some people here that are relatively new, and so he's going to give you a couple of minutes to talk about this and to explain, what's the words I'm looking for, Mr. Neri? Just explain what this is and why we're doing it. These roads have not been built
The word
yet.
you're looking for, Councilmember Saunders, is Jim Neri, Director of Planning and Zoning.
Good.
Let me begin by explaining this by telling you how it used to be and then how it is today. We amended this ordinance in 2007 to what it is today. Prior to that, the way we accepted dedication for maintenance for the improvements in the subdivision was very confusing. There was at least 3 separate inspections, one for building permits, one for the final plat, one for dedication of maintenance, and it was up to the developer or their project team to actually petition to come before the city council to have those improvements accepted by ordinance. Sometimes they forgot completely. So in studying what other people in Central Arkansas do, we patterned ours after Little Rock, which is what you see today. In this case, once a final plat is approved, then it comes before you all to be read 3 times. At the very end is the most important thing contingent upon the signing of the final plat. The final plat does not get signed until all the improvements are in, roads, drainage, sidewalk, everything. It's all been inspected by our Public Works Department, and I have an email that says it's ready to go. Plus, their 2-year maintenance bond has to be in hand before then. Once I get that email, then I sign the final plat, it gets filed and recorded, and that's the end of it. And it's also, in this case, it's also to the benefit of the developer like Mr. Brock to get these things done as quickly as they can and as well as they can, because until the final plat is signed, filed, and recorded, you can't sell any lots. So that's how it is today, a much, much better way.
Thank you.
I remember that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Councilmember Mosley?
You might explain the maintenance bond and what all that is too. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Shortly after I got here, we amended that ordinance to go from a 1-year maintenance bond to a 2-year maintenance bond. For many years, we were the only city in Pulaski County that had that. There may be others now. If there are, I'm unaware. A 2-year maintenance bond means we've accepted maintenance, but 1 year and 9 months later, 90 days before that bond expires, our Public Works Department goes back out in the field and re-inspects all of those improvements that we've taken for maintenance. If there's anything that needs to be repaired, we make up what's called a punch list, the things that are wrong, and the developer has to repair them before the 2 years is out. That's the maintenance bond.
Thank you.
Any questions for Director Jim Neary?
It was very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, that was helpful. Thank you for doing
Well-
that.
Thanks, sir.
And this is on first reading, so we're not voting. Is there any discussion on this issue at this point? Okay. Next item, the second item is ordinance 961. Madam City Clerk, could you read that by title only, please?
I'll read it again for you guys.
But it
Be-
doesn't count as second reading.
It doesn't count as a second reading, no. Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 961, an ordinance declaring the speed limit in a residential rear access alleys.
Thank you. Councilmember Holt is sponsoring this ordinance. Would you like to introduce it?
If I may, please, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you. Briefly, it derived from a couple of people who live in Garden Oaks complaining about such an awesome job that we did in fixing their alleyways. Now people are speeding, so that's a problem for them now. So I mentioned it to the mayor, and he said, well, we don't have any ordinance, any speed limits for alleyways. He said, the only way you can do that is with an ordinance. So it was, he said, get with our city attorney and have it drawn up, and it would be, that's the way the process would work. I had intended it, of course, just for Garden Oaks, but the way this ordinance works, it is for citywide. So any ward that has alleyways in their ward, it's for your benefit as well. It's not limited to just one. And I would assume that Garden Oaks is not the only one that maybe has speeders in it. So it's just a way to try to accommodate the people who have alleyways in their neighborhood, and let them know that we're trying to help in some way, and that's all it is to it, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ooh, I don't know who was first here.
I think Mary was.
Okay. Ladies first, right? Okay, Councilmember Scott?
Thank you. I received some questions from one of our residents, and also I had done some research on the state website to see what kind of speed limitations were already in place for alleyways, and I couldn't find anything. So I called our police chief, and I asked him several questions. For example, would that apply to all alleys? What about the alleys that the city doesn't own? Are there speed limits that are already on the book somewhere? How would that be enforced? And those kinds of things. And Chief Williams has agreed to come and speak with us tonight, if that's all right.
I would think so. Do you want, you all have your buttons. You want to let him speak first?
Yes.
Okay. Chief Williams?
How are y'all?
Hi.
Good.
Sam Williams, I'm your police chief. I live at 2002 Murphy Drive. When I talked to Alderman Scott, she mentioned several questions that she had, so if I could take a minute, I'll try to explain to you from our perspective what we see and what we know. And obviously, we're talking about two issues. We're talking about alleys owned by the city. We're talking about alleys owned by private citizens or private corporations or groups. Anything on city property, we can enforce as far as state law goes. Anything on private property requires a couple of different circumstances, and speeding is not one of them. The speeding statute is fairly clear, and it starts out on any roadway in the state of Arkansas. A private alley is not a roadway. So we cannot, but don't get mad at me yet. We can't enforce speeding in an alley that's privately owned, even if we chose to. There are two ordinances that do apply to private property. One is reckless driving, which is driving in a manner of willful and wanton disregard that causes concern of harm to people or injury to property. That can be enforced anywhere. and the other one is careless and prohibited driving. And both of them are, especially careless and prohibited driving, specifically states it shall be unlawful for any parts under the control in a public thoroughfares or private property in the state of Arkansas. So those are two ordinances that can be enforced in any alley in the city. Here's one of the issues we have on speeding. I've tried to find now Arkansas, as we know, has unless otherwise posted laws, as do all states. In a municipality, the speed limit is 30 miles an hour unless otherwise posted. It's 55 on the state highway unless otherwise posted. I think it's 65 on the interstate, or 90, depending on if you're on 430. Yeah, you're in a rush to get home because you've been drinking too much. Those are standalone laws that are applied to every municipality. If you don't see a speed limit sign, assume it's 30 miles an hour. The only place I could find that has a unless otherwise posted law was California. And every alley in California is a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit unless otherwise posted. That's the only state I could. There probably are some others, but I didn't find them. Arkansas is not one of those states. So the only way that we could enforce a speeding ordinance would be for it to be a public alleyway, and that it be posted. Otherwise, we would be in an area where we didn't know what the ordinance was until I got to looking at it, and I would not like to hold a resident accountable for something that they don't really have any way of knowing. Reckless driving and unsafe driving are two ordinances that I don't know right offhand if we have actually written citations to, but I do know of several occasions where we have gone to people, asked them to slow it down, said we've had concerns of the neighbors, and asked them to cooperate with us and slow it down with generally a good degree of success. And notice I didn't say total success. We've had one incident that I can come off of right now, but the person just didn't get it. And I think finally they either moved or they got it. But generally that works. One of the really good things about that tactic is if you're driving down an alley more than once, the odds are great that you live there or you're visiting there a lot. So your neighbors are going to know who you are. And if a neighbor has a real problem with a specific person driving recklessly down an alley all the time, we can assign an officer to an alley to see if they come through, which I hate. I honestly believe there are better uses for our patrol officers than that. Or B, make contact with the person that we suspect driving in a non-enforcement capacity and say, hey, work with us. So we have options, and of course, y'all as a council have options. Y'all can do what you want to do, and we enforce the laws that y'all tell us to enforce. But that is where the police department stands and state law stands as far as the speeding in alleyways is concerned.
Good information.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good information. Thank you, Chief.
I've got one question for him. Like Savannah Drive that goes by Taco Bueno. And
Oh, yes, sir.
that's a private street, is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct? So if somebody's going 40 miles an hour down there and an officer passes him the other way, he cannot issue him a ticket? Is
Oh, we would charge with, I always laugh at our careless and prohibited, and City Attorney Norris is laughing at me. I always laugh at our careless and prohibited and always say cruel and unusual driving. But it is careless and prohibited. If we saw somebody going 40 down there, I feel like, I know we could stop them for careless and prohibited driving. And that's a citable offense. That's too fast for a private driveway. Yes, sir. That'd be like going 40 through the backside of Kroger. We'd stop somebody for doing that.
okay, but if they're only going like 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, you wouldn't.
Might be tough. It might be tough. But if they're going 30-ish through there, that would be real tough.
Okay.
But a 40 and accelerating, yes, sir, I wouldn't mind seeing that statement. And a lot of it's just, that we train our officers. They're professionals. I've stopped a lot of people without having a radar gun in them. Lake Willistine, as some of y'all have seen me do. You can tell when you're flying through Lake Willistine. And I'll stop and shut you down. And I think through courtroom testimony, we can demonstrate why we issued a citation if we issued such a thing.
All right. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
sir.
Okay, any other questions for the chief? Okay. I don't know who was first, but Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, my question was answered. I had the same question,
Okay.
whether we could enforce on private alleyways. And I think we know the answer. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you. Part of my question was answered in the same fashion. Can we enforce on public or private property? I noticed that this does not declare whether the alleyway is public or private, because we only have one alleyway that I know of that is actually dedicated to the city. I don't know if I could support this until something like that was written in there. I know that's a little more specific than a city attorney likes to get with ordinances, but I want it to be spelled out that there's no way, which we've already heard, that we can enforce speed limit on private property. And a lot of the alleyways that are in the city are private property. They're part of POAs or organizations, or businesses. So I think that we need to maybe look at the wording on that, so that if we do want to go forward with this, that we would include that it's public alleyways. But my next thing that I wanted to bring up was that, is this a solution that's looking for a problem? Are we able to do, and this might be something that we can ask the chief, are we able to do like a speed study in that area? I know that anytime that we visit speeding issues in our respective wards or in the city, we like to start with, and I know Mayor Watson likes to start with a speed study to see if there really is a true problem with speeding going on in those prospective areas. And in some of those studies that were in Ward 2, it always seems to be a finding that there's not really as big of a problem as what's perceived. Chief Williams did say that his officers are trained to see what a person looks like when they're going over the speed limit, but the citizens are not as well trained. We might think that we know what 40 miles an hour looks like, but it's a lot of times is a mistake. It's not really the case. So I would love to have more of an idea of what if we really do have a problem going on in those alleyways before we start making changes to our ordinances. So I would love for us to look at that more before we move forward with making an ordinance for speeding. Now, I understand that if we did have a problem and we haven't identified the alleyway as some jurisdiction for the city, that we would have to cover that. I mean, because that is the only public or right-of-way or thoroughfare that hasn't been identified for enforcement, other than the 30 miles an hour, and we all probably can agree that we don't want the alleyway to have 30 mile an hour, since it's not posted. But I think we need to make sure that there's a problem before we start forward, and that we actually talk about the fact that it's a public alleyway instead of just saying alleyways for the city. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Vapurzian?
This is for Mr. Hogan. Here's a question that nobody's asked yet that we need to know. Am I correct in saying in our last discussion, if you have to put up a new sign, it's $500 per sign?
It's roughly that, yeah, if it's a brand-new sign.
Okay. Now, there are times when we could put a 10-mile-an-hour sign, address it to another post that's already there. But
Correct.
here's my question, even with the Garden Oaks situation, I'm thinking of at least a half a dozen signs that are gonna have to go up.
At least the entranceway.
At least a half a dozen signs for the entranceways.
Yeah, interesting.
And if we're talking, I don't know this number at all, if we're talking new signs, that's, that's getting expensive a little bit. How many rear access alleyways that the city owns are in the city? Any idea? And how many signs are we talking? Are we talking 6? Are we talking 50? Because if it's 50 times 500, then all of a sudden we're at 25 grand. And we're talking, we need to think a little bit more on what we're doing here. I am absolutely for controlling the speed through an alleyway, but what's the safest and more cost-effective way for us to do it? Can you paint a big 10 on the entryway? You know what I'm saying? Have you seen that before? I don't know if that's allowed, but I don't have the idea for it, but I don't know the number, the expense, and you might not either.
Yeah, I mean, if we did all the alleyways, which I don't think we should, just because Garden Oaks is, you know, it's taken over by the city.
Yeah.
But you know, if you did all the alleyways, it would get very costly. At $500 a sign, roughly. So.
Okay, it's just a question I had and wanted us to think about also. So thank you very much, because this is my area and I want it. Maybe we should be more specific at saying just these alleyways right now, and let everybody fend for themselves as they get along. If you've got constituents complaining, you can bring it, but you know, $3,000 if we had to spend that is not near. Anyway, it was a thought.
And I will say the Garden Oaks alleyways, you know, I just wonder how fast they're speeding because, you know, they're sharp turns. It's very curvy. I'm not sure you could get over 15 miles an hour. And to some people, it may look fast to them. If it's a straight shot in front of their house, you know, it may be a quick acceleration, but then a slow to speed because they have to make a turn or a curve. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to really know the speed limits through there.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney,
I just wanted to give you all a little bit of context about how we got here. So residential rear access alleys didn't exist as a street classification in the city of Maumelle until about 2014. 2014. So it was a new classification. When they inputted that classification in the code, it gave what is a recommended speed limit. I think the idea at that time was that that would be the speed limit. What happened is that we didn't go in and amend the actual speed limits. It's just listed in our ordinances as a recommended speed limit and not in the speeding section. So the speeding section just has no classification for rear access, residential rear access alleys. And so just to give y'all a little bit of context of how we got here without a speed limit in that area, it appears as though it was an oversight. And then second of all, the whole reason we're talking about this, and I saw Councilmember Holt hit his button, but what he wanted was just painted on the ground in Garden Oaks alleys the speed limit, which we found was the recommended speed limit and not the actual speed limit. And so the mayor said, well, he's not going to go paint on the concrete the speed limit if it's not actually a limit and it's just a recommended speed limit. And so then from Councilmember Holt getting with the mayor, recommending that I draft this up. And so there's a lot of questions and discussion going on. I just wanted to give people context as to what was happening and why. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Councilmember Scott.
I would ask Councilmember Holt, you know, how many people complained? How often do they say it happens? Could it be something like Chief Williams said, that if it's the same person doing it all the time, they could go and have a conversation with them? Or is it just someone saying people are flying through here all the time, you know? And I'd just be curious about that.
The two ladies they don't know each other and live in different sections. They implicated that it was a relative of someone that lived there. It was not actually a resident.
One person.
So that was the point there. And I feel like, you know, as an alderman, it's my job to simply present an idea in their behalf and let the council. I think we've had excellent discussion, and I certainly agree with Alderman Anderson that we need to clarify what this was just thrown out there. This is the opening, so now we need to focus and bring it down. That makes sense. It was in doing my door-to-door knocking of 40 doors that I knocked on while going through the process of getting ready for election. I was over in Meadow Ridge, and going down one of the streets, in the middle of the street, they have slow 25. That's all it says. But it's big letters in the big wide street. So I mentioned to the mayor, I said, you know, over in Garden Oaks, smaller alleyways, and maybe it would be less expensive and less time. Could we just paint that? There's 4 entrances coming off of Garden Oaks, painted at the entrance. I agree. People don't read signs. They don't read the stop signs at my house at 45. No offense, Chief. But anyway, so if that would help any at all, we will have at least offered something if it isn't budget busting or something of that nature. I couldn't possibly agree more. So anyway, it was just an idea. I wanted to throw it out, and I think we've had excellent discussion, and I hope we'll continue to think about it. We have time, and then we'll conclude whatever we want to come along with, if that is okay with everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, now, your light's on, turned off? Do you have anything
Yeah,
else
I'm
to
done.
say?
Thank you.
If I could, I want to point out that Councilmember Anderson pointed out that I'm usually adverse to regional-specific legislation. We do have the subsequent city code, 82203, is called speed limits for certain specified streets, and it'll target certain streets and then say, even though this may be a Class 4 minor arterial, it does say, in this case, for this street, we're setting a different speed limit. So I don't know that I'd be adverse to it in the same way that I typically am when we try and aim at a particular neighborhood.
Okay. Councilmember Scott?
I just had one other thing, and the chief mentioned it briefly, but is this what we want our police officers doing? Because there's no sense doing it if we're not going to enforce it. And the only way we're going to be able to enforce it is to be there watching it. And is that the best use of their time? And the citizens' tax money.
Good point. Councilmember Vapurzian?
Chief, has anyone requested a speed study in this area yet?
You know, that's, I thought that was a neat idea, but no, sir. I've
Okay.
never heard anybody ask for a speed study.
Could we do that now? Because I think it would help. I think it would really help us to know which way, because we don't know.
I know we don't have any issues putting it in public property. We might have a concern putting a speed study on private property, but you're not wanting that. So I certainly don't have any issue with that whatsoever.
I think that'd be the first place to start.
Could we do that?
I
love
think
identifying
that
the
if the
problem.
council wanted to make a motion requesting that the mayor have a speed study, that would be the more appropriate thing to do, because that's just handled administratively,
Okay.
internally.
I'd like to make a motion that we ask the mayor to request a speed study for the Garden Oaks alleyways.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. Okay, the motion is passed. Okay. Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to entertain a thought of maybe kind of putting this on hold till we get more information.
How long does a speed study take, do you know?
And how much
How
does
much
it
does
cost?
it cost?
2 weeks. And then it takes,
What's the cost?
What's the cost of this? It doesn't cost.
it doesn't cost.
It'll be a separate reading. So we should have the information before the third reading.
It comes out of the computer graph, so it's.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, in that case, if it's 2 weeks, it will still be within the second reading, and that probably should give us plenty of time to make any decisions, so we don't really need to put it on hold. But I also would like to make a motion that we change the wording to public alleyways or rear entry alleyways or whatever it was called. But I'd like to enter that we, that make sure that we are specific on public,
City owned.
that it's city-owned.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
So let me, if I may clarify, what is the motion so that we can insert that language
Yes.
into the,
I'm trying to
City.
unlock my,
and I guess in that vein, I'm asking if
no,
you're trying
whereas-
to change the road, the public road classification.
City.
okay. it didn't have to be, say, city-owned, it would be public residential rear access alleyways. So are you saying that if we, since that's the classification that's already, we have to use that classification of rear access alleyways?
I could draft an ordinance going through the city code and changing all of the references to that. No.
My thing, my whole point
I get what
is-
you're saying. I just want to make sure that that I'm able to draft what it is that you're requesting in the motion.
What I'm requesting in the motion is that for this ordinance, ordinance 961, that we identify the fact that this is a public alleyway or rear access alleyway. So I guess my question is, in the rear access alleyways that are not publicly owned, are those not classified as rear access alleyways?
Well,
if they're privately owned, are they classified as residential rear access alleyways?
I don't know that they've ever been classified as anything. Yeah, I get what you're asking, but the alleyways, of course, preceded the existence of the classification. So they're not built to the specs of that, but then again, neither is the Garden Oaks alley.
Right.
And so the way we handle it with all the other roads, because we do have private streets, is we just, I suppose I could draft into the language something that amends or makes clear that for all of the street classifications, the Class 2 urban expressways, Class 3 principal arterials urban and minor arterials, and Class 5 collectors urban, and the different Class 6 residential street classifications, that all of those already only apply to public roadways and not private. But so I can go in and make it clear and explicit that that's the case.
I'll yield to.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
The fact that that these are designated as residential rear access alleyways indicates that they're already city streets, not private streets.
That's
Is that
what I was asking.
Is that what you're saying?
I just didn't ask.
Well, the speed limits are, of course, only for the public roads, and I get and I know some of the issues specifically as to why you're bringing this up in those particular alleys. If the council wants, I can draft something that just makes that section of the code clearer, that all of those speed limits only apply in public roads and not private. And that would be easier to do than trying to say that a certain subclassification, that speed limit only applies to public roadways and not private.
So my whole point is that I want to make sure that this is only applied to public right-of-ways. So the best way that we can clarify that, I will support. So whatever you suggest that we do to make sure that we're not trying to impose an ordinance on private property.
Okay, I can make that clear.
Which the police department could not enforce anyway. Thank you.
I got you. Thank you very much, Councilmember Anderson.
Do you need a motion to do that, or can you just change it?
I think we had the motion in the second,
Motion.
and I now know what that motion means, so as long as the council's on board.
So we need to,
Vote on
well,
it.
first, Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Do you want to proceed with this?
I believe we have it clarified where we can proceed. Am I
Mhm.
understanding that correctly?
Okay.
If the question has been given and answered properly, and at least we can go that far, and then if we need to change it further down the
Second
way,
reading.
we can.
All right, all right. Do we have to go back to first reading, Mr. City Attorney?
With these edits, yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Scott?
No.
Oh, you're already through. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion. Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion passes. Okay,
We voted on the change. We did not
Yeah.
vote on the
Correct.
motion
Right.
as
Right.
it exists.
I want to clarify the,
Right.
yeah. It's clear as mud.
okay, are we ready to move along?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, the last item here on new business is about the 2019 budget schedule. And in your packet, the last page, you have a proposed budget calendar, and I say proposed. The mayor and I talked about this. He wants confirmation from everybody, and he'll be back shortly. He would like for everyone to look at the budget workshop section. We have 4 meetings scheduled, starting on October 23rd, then October 29, November 13, and November the 26th. He would like to know if anybody has any problems with those dates, because this is just proposed at this point. If you do, I would suggest you take some time and think about this and look at your calendars. If you have a problem with any of these, please get a hold of the mayor. Okay, not me. So, okay. Planning Commission report, we don't need. Council members' comments. Councilmember Vapurzian?
I had the chance to let a few people here know, but as far as the annexation situation that we've been talking about in Eric Holloway's conversations with North Little Rock Wastewater, come to find out they have done an extensive amount of work to the Murphy pump station, so much to the fact that they do not believe it will be necessary that we provide a pump station on the Brown property, so that it looks like all we'll have to do is run the lines. What he's working through now is to find, can we use the existing 21-inch line, or will we have to run parallel lines? Either way, it is a massive cost savings. And so maybe that was God's way of letting us know we didn't need that extra bill to bond to pass, because we didn't need the money.
Right.
So very grateful to Eric and all the work that he's doing there, but it is going to be a substantial savings. And much, much quicker to just put lines in rather than to build a pump station. So it will be in hand by budget session, so be prepared to hear something about that when the time comes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Scott?
I've got just 2 things. We're going to have the first annual Great Maumelle, Arkansas Cleanup Day on September 22nd from 9 to 12. And the Friends of Lake Willistine Park are working with the Maumelle Chamber and with Parks and Rec to get that organized. And Alicia Gillum will be putting something online where people can actually sign up online. We'll have multiple teams. We'll be cleaning Willistine, Valencia, this headquarters area, sweeping the building, picking up trash, killing weeds, that kind of thing. And Track D is our plan. So if you know of scout troops or school groups or anything like that that would like to participate in that, then have them get a hold of the chamber, or they can contact me. And the other thing is, there was a lot of discussion about the goose poop, because it's really been bad. And Philip Rayburn came and talked to the Friends of Maumelle group and said, that just about everything that can be done is being done. They are going to start power washing some of that off because it has to be dry if they're going to use the sweeper. And I noticed that one resident had sent in a suggestion that a flashing amber light deters geese. And in order to cover the whole lake, it would have been a huge expense. But I noticed that Mr. Rayburn or Parks Department had put one down in the parking lot where the worst of the goose poop is, and also put 2 coyote stands. And the first day, it seemed to be working, but this morning, they were all huddled around it. And I made the comment that I think they like the ambiance. So unfortunately, it didn't work. But that's my comment on goose poop.
Well, that was interesting. Okay. And you do realize that September the 22nd, I believe, is also the Shred It event.
Yes, our event runs from 9 to 12, and Shred It runs till 1.
Okay.
So anyone volunteering, of course, can take off and do their recycling and beautification all in the same morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, real good. Okay, Councilmember Holt?
I just want to congratulate you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, for doing a superb job this evening. Everything went smooth as silk. Hope you do it again.
Well, What'd I do to you?
Very nice.
Thank you. Okay, another thing, under mayor's comments, I skipped over this and I should not have. He wanted to remind everybody, our next meeting will be on Tuesday because of Labor Day on Monday. So, and that will be September the 4th. Okay, Mr. City Attorney?
Nothing, sir.
Okay, Madam City Clerk?
Nothing.
Okay. Councilman Holt, Councilmember Holt, you know, you're the liaison for Planning Commission. Okay, and I would,
So offered.
Second.
Entertained.
okay, well, in that case, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.